whatever you wind up doing is exactly what you should be doing.
And I have not behaved one single day of my life. Not one day of my life have I behaved, and I am fine.
I need your help. I can't tell you what it is. You can never ask me about it later, and we're going to hurt some people.
Whose car are we going to take?
And good afternoon. Thanks for joining us on the Nikki Medoro Show, live on YouTube or whenever you feel like joining the show. We have a big show coming up in just a few minutes. We will be talking with Emily Hoeven, a friend of the show, a longtime friend of the show. She's awesome. Huge fan of her writing. She's on the San Francisco Chronicle's Editorial Board. We're going to talk about two of her articles. One we discussed, we teased actually last week. And it had to do with California state Democrats and their positions on things. And Emily thinks it's getting a bit absurd and can be handing some relevancy, making Republicans relevant, I should say, in the state again. And it's a super majority here in California. And is it time for the Republicans to be a bit more relevant? We'll discuss that. Also, her latest article. And again, you can find the links to all of her articles in the show notes. California wants to make math more diverse, more minorities, more girls entering the STEM fields. But the way they're doing it, Emily has a problem with it. She's going to actually share a personal story that really resonated with me as a young girl who really didn't understand math and that narrative you tell yourself. I remember geometry. That was where I went, I do not get this. And I wonder if, I had a bit more, study, tutoring, possibly a different teacher, if I may have stuck with it. But there's a path to STEM careers that, if California continues down this path, may lead to fewer girls and minorities entering the STEM career jobs or career fields. So that's coming up in just a few minutes. I did go, and I teased it if you follow me on my social media pages. I have picked up the balls. So we talked about this yesterday. A Bay Area, South Bay actually, Thai restaurant is being sued because a woman claims that this appetizer she ordered, the Dragonballs, were too spicy and permanently damaged her vocal cords. So you guys know I like my spice. And since I'm not here tomorrow when we do our Friday food segment, we're doing a mini one today. So that's happening after my conversation with Emily Hoeven. So yeah, I have them. They smell delicious. Just letting you know. They smell so very good. So I was booking it over there. They don't even open until 11:30. So I did this for you guys. And I was rushing over there. So you won't want to miss that. Also, we have to talk not just about Jason Aldean, which I can kind of understand the political debate around his song and more specifically his video. And we'll get into it if you don't know what I'm talking about. But there's this new movie that came out this month. I really debated talking about it, but I think it's important, especially because former President Trump just screened this movie yesterday. I wonder why. It's called Sounds of Freedom. And I have a funny story about how this actually entered, how I found out about this movie. I was completely confused. But it's this whole debate of, if you don't watch this movie, then you must support something as horrific as child sex trafficking, which I don't understand. So maybe if you guys have seen the movie, you can explain it to me, but that's all coming up on today's show. Before we get to Emily, please click the thumbs up button to show your support of the show. And please share the show with your family and friends. Make sure they're subscribed. We love growing our community, and it is growing, and we really appreciate it. The super chat is live, and Stan already starting us off with a $10 donation and a good morning. It's now afternoon, Stan, but thank you. Thank you so much. So just look for the $ under the live chat box, and you guys can donate to the show, and I share it with Kim, and we really depend on it. And then, of course, you guys know the number one way to support the show is to become a monthly Patreon subscriber. Just go to the NikkiMedoroShow.com. Our Patreon link is there. Become a Medorable. We just had one sign up yesterday. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You could bump up it. It's only one time a month. You're charged. So whatever you can afford once a month is all it is. And you choose the amount. We don't set any bars on that. And so again, just go to thenikkimedoroshow.com. Our PayPal is there. And our merchandise shop is there as well. That's thenikkimedoroshop.com. All right. So let's talk a bit about California politics, shall we? Because let's welcome first off our dear friend, Emily Hoeven, to the show. Emily, thank you so much for coming on. I hope you're feeling better.
I am. Thank you, Nikki. Thanks for having me.
Of course. So now Emily Hoeven is with the San Francisco Chronicle's Editorial Board. And you wrote actually really two good articles, but I want to start with the one we wanted to talk about last week. And it kind of goes along with the movie that I'll be talking about later this show. But there was this bill that had to do with human trafficking of minors. And the bill would have classified it as a quote unquote serious felony. Now, apparently there was this, I think it was the Oversight Committee. They initially said no, they wouldn't pass it. And it was put forward by a Republican. And people were like, why are you voting against this? So give us a little bit of the background on this bill and what actually happened with it.
Yeah, absolutely. So this was just the latest effort to try to classify human trafficking, specifically human trafficking of children, as a serious felony in California. There's been many efforts to do this in the past, including by Democrats. And actually the bill that was at issue recently was authored primarily by a Republican, but it had passed the entire California State Senate with unanimous bipartisan support. So not a single Democrat voted against it. And then it came to the state assembly and it came up in the Assembly Public Safety Committee, which has kind of been notorious in the past for killing bills that, I sort of see as pretty common sense. And we've talked about some other ones on the show, including classifying domestic violence as a violent crime. And so the issue that came up was, what does it mean to call human trafficking of children a serious felony? It is. So adding it to the list of crimes that are considered serious in California Penal Code means that it counts as a strike under California's 3 strike. That means that if you repeat an offense considered to be serious 2 or 3 times, you're going to get longer and longer sentences in prison, and it's going to be harder for you to earn good conduct credit rates at a faster rate and basically shorten that sentence a lot. And so I think that, the thing that's interesting is that when it was in the Senate, this bill would have originally classified human trafficking of anyone as a serious crime. But there were concerns about, that how that could lead to over-incarceration and the disproportionate incarceration of people of color. And so they narrowed that to human trafficking of children. And then came up in the Assembly Public Safety Committee, and those same concerns about over-incarceration and the idea that, sometimes traffickers force victims to traffic other victims. And there was concern that some of those victims might be, imprisoned as well. And so all of that led to Democrats on the committee not voting on the bill at all. They abstained from the vote, and so it didn't have enough to pass. Then there was all this uproar, and it went back, and they did pass it.
Now, how many Democrats, when you say they abstained, how many Democrats are we talking about here? All of them?
Yeah, there were 6 Democrats on the committee, and in the initial vote, all 6 Democrats abstained from the vote. There are 2 Republicans on the committee, and those Republicans did vote to advance it. But yeah, there was the 6 abstentions from the Democrats.
So now, obviously, there was pressure because there was uproar. It kind of seemed like if there was anything people can agree on, it's the child trafficking is wrong. It's serious. And if you do it, you should be, thrown away. Now, I understand that Governor Newsom also threw his opinion into this, and that also might have helped move things towards it passing, correct?
Yeah, it was really interesting. So the day after this vote happened, it kind of just blew up on social media. Everyone was kind of confounded by the idea that you would say that human trafficking of a child is not serious. I mean, I think just linguistically and morally and ethically, it's very difficult to kind of justify that sort of standpoint. The governor was asked about the bill directly, and he said, I actually talked with the author, who is Republican State Senator Shannon Grove of Bakersfield, and we want to try to find a solution to this. There's actually now a new speaker in the state assembly, Robert Rivas. He replaced Anthony Rendon, and Rendon was very notorious in some ways for not getting involved in those types of disputes and really allowing the leaders of certain committees to be pretty strong in the stances that they took and kind of stand on their own with whatever that was, and not really interfering with that. And it seems like Rivas is going to take a little bit more of a hands-on approach, because he also said at an event that day that he also wanted to find a solution to this issue, and that it's something that is very serious. And so I think with both the governor and Rivas getting involved and basically siding with the Republican, as well as all of the very public pressure that the committee was receiving, they moved right away to have another hearing, and they just really quickly, it was like, I think, a 2-minute long hearing, they voted to pass the bill.
Well, I mean, because it does seem obvious. Now, the reason why we're also talking about this, Emily, is because it really is a snapshot of California state politics right now. California is a supermajority, and Democrats hold all the power basically in California. Pisses off a lot of people, especially if you're a Republican in the state of California. It's also a very good excuse for anything that's wrong in the state, right? If there's homelessness, if there's crimes, well, it's the Dems' fault because there's no Republicans in power. What does this kind of show regarding maybe an erosion, perhaps, of what could possibly be a supermajority? I mean, do you foresee Republicans here in the state of California using an issue like this and how absurd it was to vote against it as a way of like, hey, maybe it's better to have some checks and balances in a state, especially of this size?
No, absolutely. I mean, I think that vote was very out of touch with the average person. And I think that Democrats, they kind of unnecessarily gave Republicans power that they really shouldn't have, and they really didn't need to. This is an issue that was bipartisan in the Senate. So why did the Assembly Public Safety Committee take such a different stance than the entire rest of the state Senate? And, in my column, I kind of argued that Republicans are so insignificant in California that anytime they receive a victory, it's really not because of their own self. It's because Democrats sabotaged themselves. Right. And they did this on the criminal justice issue because, that vote was kind of so out of the blue and so out of touch with, I think, how the average person would perceive that crime, that the Republicans just slammed them on that messaging, and they got the attention of the governor, they got the attention of the press, and they secured a victory for now because they reversed themselves and the bill advanced. And, also on the issue of housing, we're seeing Democrats take, pretty ideologically, pure approaches to some of these things that do not account for the reality. And so, the idea that you oppose over incarceration, if you take that to its logical extreme, you're not going to put people in jail, even people that are committing the most egregious crimes. The average person is going to have problems with that. On housing, there are Democrats that are so tied to environmental and labor groups that they oppose the construction of housing except under the most narrow circumstances. Even though we clearly have a housing crisis in California and an affordable housing crisis in California. And so what ended up happening was that Democrats, in my opinion, stupidly gave Republicans the opportunity to be the votes that actually got a very key housing bill across a key committee. And they didn't actually need to have that happen, because if the Republicans are so insignificant that their votes don't matter, except for when Democrats don't vote on certain bills because of these kind of divorced from reality stances. And then Republicans can say, oh, we're the ones that are helping solve the housing crisis. Yeah. We're the ones that are understanding that, lower income communities of color are the ones who need these affordable houses here in California. We're supporting that. Democrats aren't. We're the ones saying that child traffickers should be in prison. Democrats aren't. And I think that if Democrats don't kind of take a step back and look at how their ideas are kind of being filtered into reality, they do risk losing some voters who are just going to be honestly kind of confused by the stance of, we support victims, we support, low income communities, and then not really following policies that are actually achieving those ends.
Absolutely. Now, the thing, the debate I always have, and I'm sure that you have it as well. You're on the editorial board. I'm sure you get all kinds of comments from people on both sides of the political aisle. The conversation I have with my conservative friends in California goes something like this. It's like, I'm willing to debate policy with you. The problem is I don't trust the Republican Party to support and to fight for California ideals. So, when we talk about, oh, we can be on the same page for this, we can be on the same page for that. Is there such a thing as a California Republican? Because I think the worry is once a Republican gets in there or too many Republicans get in there, they're no longer a California Republican. They become more of a national Republican, which scares the bejesus out of people because we see what happens when Republicans are in power. And I would argue it really, truly goes against what Californians stand for. So how do we fix that?
100%, Nikki. And I think that something that was really interesting about this and kind of underscored the very issue that you're talking about was that after this child trafficking bill thing, where clearly it seemed like Republicans were kind of in the right on that issue, there was a vote to actually repeal the language of Proposition 8 from the California state constitution, which essentially says, marriage is only between a man and a woman, and essentially suggests that, gay marriage is not something that California voters support. That may have been true, even a decade ago or, 15 years ago. But I think the view on gay marriage among our country and also among Californians in general is shifted dramatically. And I think if you ask the average person, do you support a person's right to marry who they love? They're going to say yes. And so there was a vote to remove this language from the Constitution, and it's going to go on to the 2024 ballot. So voters will have a chance to weigh in on it. The point is that some Republicans actually abstained from that vote, kind of suggesting that supporting gay marriage is not something that they're going to come out. Maybe they're neutral on it, but they're not going to come out and say, yes, I think voters should have the opportunity to vote on this. And I had this very same discussion with some folks where I'm like, Republicans make good arguments in California on things like housing and on crime. But when it comes to social issues like, like gay marriage or, the issues surrounding transgender rights, things surrounding abortion, they are themselves out of touch with I think the average California voter. And we saw that because voters really strongly last year supported an amendment to enshrine the right to abortion in the California state constitution. And so it really does not make sense for Republicans in California to double down on, things that are anti-abortion or anti-gay rights, because that's just not going to fly in California. And so I think that if they want to try to have success here, they're going to have to kind of walk back some of those stances. I do think there are models for this. I mean, in the election last year, Lon He-Chen, who was running for California State Controller, he really carved out a path as I think what a California Republican could look like. He came out and said he supports abortion. He supports a woman's right to choose. He denounced former President Donald Trump and said that he, believes the elections were fairly decided. Right. And so I think that those are the types of views that if Republicans are going to have any traction in California, and if they are going to kind of win back voters' trust, they're going to have to address those issues, because I do think those social questions are a really big reason why many Californians don't support Republicans, and they're going to vote for Democrats, even if Democrats are voting on some of these things that are a little bit, iffy.
Exactly. And I mean, even though you obviously mentioned, some that want to appeal to the California voter, I don't trust them. And that's just something in me. Like, you see, what happened with the U.S. Supreme Court and what people say and what people do when they're actually in power, or even if you vote a certain way while you're a California lawmaker, if you have aspirations nationally, you might flip your script. And so it's the erosion of trust, I think, for me personally, with the Republican Party that makes me I got to vote Democrat, because when push comes to shove, I would love to have more checks and balances on my Democratic lawmakers here. I would love to hear different points of view. Well, when you start taking away my reproductive freedom, when you start talking about taking away the right for people to marry, etc., you lose me as a Californian, and there's no way of getting me back. And so it's frustrating. And I thought that, your article was a great example. And again, if you guys want to read it, it's in the show notes, because that's all I kept thinking was, logically, this makes sense. But our political divide not just across the country, but here in California, makes it so we can't even agree on the most obvious things. It's so frustrating.
Absolutely. And I just wish that, there was more common ground and just some of the things we've been talking about, where it's like, supporting people's right to marry, and then also at the same time supporting reasonable, criminal justice laws, and supporting good housing policy. I mean, it seems like these are things that should not be, super controversial, but here we are, and
Everything's controversial, it seems like.
Yeah, and
It's awful.
we're just always seem to be relitigating issues that were decided a long time ago. And I think that's kind of the interesting, and it seems that, there were policies that were supporting all of those things, and then now there's a backlash and we're taking them back. And maybe again in 20 years, we're going to go the other direction again. So it's just, we can never really seem to find that middle ground, which is really unfortunate.
It is. If you're joining us, I'm speaking with Emily Hoeven. She's with the San Francisco Chronicle's Editorial Board. There's another article that you put out, I think today. It's in the paper, and it has to do with math. And I want to welcome Kim McAllister to the show, because we both have daughters who are about to enter high school. Hi, Kim.
Hi.
And your article deals with math and the progression of math and the goal of California. Again, these great California ideals. You want to be diverse. You want to help girls. You want to help minorities. And yet your take on this isn't going to work. It's actually going to backfire. So you start off your article, which again, people can find in the show notes, talking about your own path through high school with math. So briefly give us that story.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I always wanted to, take classes at the highest level I could. When I was in high school, I went to a public school. I had a great education there. And my senior year of high school, they actually, for the very first time that my school ever did this, they offered a class called AP Calculus BC. And I honestly had truly never thought of myself as a math person. I mean, I had taken, I guess higher level math classes, but I always felt that when I was in them, I had to work a lot harder than the people around me to understand what was going on. I mean, I was there, but it wasn't something that I felt just naturally came to me,
Yeah.
The way that maybe writing seems more natural. I was like, okay, I can do this, but I have to work really hard and I have to study like crazy. But I was like, you know what? I want to take this class. I want to push myself. I want to get into a good college. And they're offering it. So I took it. And it was this weird thing where I felt like suddenly all the work that I had been doing up until that point, it really crystallized and really made sense in my calculus class, because all of the sorts of equations and theorems and things that you're doing in algebra and geometry, you kind of understand where they come from and how you derive them. And it was like, oh my gosh, I understand the foundation of math. And that was
a light bulb moment, right?
It was. And it was the most like insane and cool realization, where I was like, I weirdly like this. And it's of course it's hard, but it's the rewarding type of thing where you find that you are capable of things that you didn't think you were capable of. And I just think that should be the goal that we have for every student in the world. Honestly, you want students to, and I really firmly believe that students are capable of learning difficult material. It's just the way that you're teaching it and the way that you're presenting it. And instead of, I believe that the new, math framework that California has doesn't really have that as its central goal, which is really unfortunate.
Yeah, and talk about that, because what they're trying to do, from what I understand from your article, is kind of delay algebra, which, if you guys don't remember, if it's been that long, you have to take one class before you can take another class before you can take another class. And so talk about what California wants to do. And just to clarify, this isn't mandated, right? The school districts don't have to do it this way, but this is what California would like them to do.
Absolutely. Yeah. So every couple of years, I think it's every 10 years, California looks at its, framework for teaching math, and it basically does like revisions, updates to try to improve things. So it's been working on this latest update to its math curriculum for a while. The last framework was in 2013. Now it's in 2023. And yeah, it's not binding, but it's just kind of a guiding document for school districts and teachers to use when they're developing their curriculum. So the issue that really kind of came to the fore in this framework was they wanted to decrease racial achievement gaps when it comes to math, and also to improve diversity in STEM fields, which, there's not as many girls or women, and there's not as many people of color, at high levels in STEM fields as there are white men. And so the issue was, how do we change this? And so they were looking at the racial achievement gaps, and I believe the gaps are pretty startling. It's something that about 70% of Asian students are meeting state math standards compared to just 16% of Black students. So obviously there are inequalities that are very disturbing and need to be rectified. And some of the issues that the thing that they contend is that students are, being pushed through math before they understand it, before they know what's going on. There's this race to calculus where, kids are trying to get there without understanding the math below it. And at a very early age, kids are kind of being separated into different learning levels where, there's some more proficient kids who are put into accelerated classes, and then other kids are put into less accelerated classes, and they never seem to catch up to the higher achieving kids. And so the general idea was, let's keep kids together on the same path for as long as we possibly can, because kids will, learn from each other, be challenged by each other. And then later in high school, they can kind of branch off and accelerate into different paths depending on what they want to do. The problem is that the longer you keep kids together, the later in their career they would take Algebra 1, which is kind of this like foundational math class that from that you go on to geometry, higher levels of algebra, and then to calculus. And the way that the US math curriculum is set up right now is that if you take Algebra 1 in 9th grade of your high school year, it's very challenging to get to calculus by your senior year of high school. The problem with that is that taking calculus as a senior, it prepares you to enter and apply to more competitive colleges that like to see that you've done that. And it makes it maybe a little bit more challenging to get a 4-year college degree in a STEM field. And so for me, the question is not, okay, if we are seeing that kids are having difficulty with Algebra 1, we're going to just force everyone to wait until 9th grade to take it, and then make it harder for them to take calculus and make it harder for them to do STEM. We should think about how we can get everybody to take Algebra 1 in 8th grade in a way that is obviously going to improve their test scores and their ability to learn it. It's not the kids. It's the way we're teaching it. It's the material. And instead of artificially imposing this sort of delay that makes it harder for anyone to get to the highest level, we should be trying to put everyone, as many as we can, to the highest level.
Emily, you are speaking my language. That is exactly right.
Yes. But how does that happen? I mean, if obviously we also know the reality. We were just talking about the reality of the situation, right? Where we are as a state, as they're trying to implement this new learning standard. We have overworked, underpaid teachers. We have a teaching shortage. You're talking about a model in which kids can learn in different ways, right? Which requires a teacher to teach to different students, likely in the same class or at the same school in different ways. Is it feasible? Is it even realistic to expect in 2023, this, in California with the teaching shortage and all of that we'd be able to do something like that where, we can get everybody up to speed by 8th grade, unless you're talking about maybe adding summer school, after school programs and things like that, if the student really wants to be on that path?
It's a great question. And I think, changing how California teaches, having better quality teachers, better paid teachers, that's a whole other thing. The thing that for me is very disturbing is that what the state is proposing, we know for a fact to not work. And that's because it happened in San Francisco Unified. And since 2015, they've been requiring kids to take Algebra 1 only in 9th grade. You can't take it before. And they were saying, this is going to revolutionize, this is going to make everything better. They just had a study come out from Stanford University, and it changed nothing. Black students did not take advanced math at a statistically significant higher level in any way. Hispanic enrollment went up by 1 percentage point, which is pretty small. Yeah. And Asian and white enrollment actually declined initially. And then I think it did bounce back. But the only way it bounced back was what you were talking about. They went to summer classes, they got private tutors, or they did this thing where they took a compressed math year where instead of taking, geometry, algebra 2, pre-calculus, calculus, you're actually combining in one of those years, you're combining those two classes, algebra 2 and geometry, or algebra 2 and pre-calculus, and then calculus.
Geometry killed me. Like I need a whole year just for geometry. It like killed me in high school. So
my daughter just did a combined year of 8th grade and 9th grade math. So when she goes into high school now this coming fall, she'll take 10th grade math. And to kind of bridge the gap on that. And that's because of what Emily's talking about, so she can get to the higher math while she's still in high school, right? You kind of have to get a jump start on it. And if you don't do that in 8th grade, then you're already behind the 8 ball going into high school, which sucks because a lot of people, they're not thinking about that. So this summer she took a 5-week algebra, like twice a week for an hour, algebra 1 review class just to make sure she had everything down. And now starting this week for the next 5 weeks, she'll take an algebra 2 class, which is what is coming up in high school. So she can just kind of be prepared for what's coming up and get those concepts, like at least be familiar with them before school starts.
Was she good at math? I mean, does she like math?
She's not like Emily said, math doesn't come easy to her. She's the person in the class who has to work at it. That's why we do the review during the summer. So she goes in there with confidence.
It's so funny, and I asked, is she good at math? And I feel like we always ask that of girls, which is kind of the point of what California wants to get away from, right? But Emily, you're also talking about, not just the path through high school to college to get into the 4-year degree. I mean, the jobs, the skills, you were talking about data science and all these sorts of things. We need calculus. We need people to have these classes and this knowledge if they want to get actually a career in these fields.
The thing that is just, looking at the framework, I'm staring at it, and there are so many parts of it that don't make sense because data science is a real thing. That's a real career, and many companies are doing it. But it's based on calculus. Like if you actually want to know what data science, if you actually are going to employ, if your job title is data scientist, you are using calculus. And I was talking to Stanford math professors about this, and it's like data science, like you can't just do it without understanding calculus. And the thing that is just kind of difficult for me to put my head around is the framework says at several points that data science offers an opportunity for more equitable math practices and everyone can everyone can do well at data science. The implication being that girls and students of color, they specifically say, have found traditional math to be harmful because they are not able to relate it to their daily lives. Okay, but how are you going to excel at data science without taking calculus? And also to insinuate that, girls should and students of color should be taking data science instead of calculus literally makes no sense because we actually just had the University of California and the California State University systems come out and say that schools were submitting this data science coursework as a replacement for advanced math for the admissions requirement. And kids were coming into the CSU and the UC not being prepared because data science is not the same thing as calculus or even as algebra 2. And you need to understand those foundations because, as you said, Nikki, everything builds on everything else. You can't just randomly...
You can't skip.
You can't just randomly learn data science without understanding how it functions. And so what California is proposing is sending kids to college less prepared than they were before, and they probably weren't even being prepared well before because many kids retake calculus, and it's specifically suggesting that girls and people of color do that when those are the very students that they are saying they want to see more of in these higher level fields. So the logic makes absolutely no sense on numerous levels, and
they're setting them up to fail basically because they're going to go to college and be like, I don't even want to continue this because I don't even understand what the hell I'm doing right now.
The answer isn't to dumb down; it's to lift up.
Yes, exactly.
100%. And what I fear happening, and I was talking to a lot of math people in college and various things, is I fear that the districts that are wealthier and that have, very high achieving people living within there, they're not going to listen to the math curriculum framework because it is only recommendation, and they're going to keep offering Algebra 1 in 8th grade. They're going to keep putting more kids into calculus. They're going to keep sending them to better colleges, and that districts that maybe don't have as many resources, don't have as many qualified teachers, they're going to delay the Algebra 1 till 9th grade, and then they're not going to send as many kids to calculus. And then what happens is the gaps are going to grow larger over time. And so that's the thing that is very disturbing to me. And, as a girl who took calculus, as a girl that doubted my own ability, and that was something that I feel like I doubted, just not because I got that message from my school or my parents or anything, but just because I was like, I can feel that I'm working at this so difficult, so hard, and more than I do in other subjects. But then to discover that you are able to do it, how insulting is it to have the state of California publish a document that says, oh, you might do better in a class that the UC and the CSU are saying is not even equivalent to advanced math.
Right. They're setting me up to fail, and you're not thinking I'm smart enough to get it if I had proper instruction. So what, just to kind of, as people are watching this, probably frustrated just like we are, obviously it's not mandated. Again, I just want to emphasize your school district does not have to do this. So I would obviously ask your school district what the plan is. I mean, is the answer just, again, not everybody can afford it or has the capability, but summer schools and private tutors, because no one's stopping you from educating your child at a certain pace if you want to.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And as Kim said, I mean, parents are going to find their own solutions and they're going to do what's best for their kids. But for me, I just worry about, what about like foster youth? What about kids that their parents are not setting them up in that right way to achieve at the highest level of their potential? I mean, public education is supposed to be the equalizer. It's supposed to be for you can go to public schools and you can get the same level of education as you would at a private school. Like that's the ideal of the public education system. And I think what needs to happen, I mean, we should not be in a world where, the solution is outside of school, you're getting the education that you should be getting in school. Yeah. And one of the teachers that I spoke, it was actually very fascinating. I spoke to a teacher that was on the committee that helped kind of frame the original ideas behind the framework. She reiterated to me numerous times that teachers need to be higher quality. And that means having higher quality credentialing programs and actually higher standards in those credentialing programs so that it's harder to become a teacher because you need better teachers. But then at the same time, we don't have enough teachers. And
right. So how hard do you want to make it?
Exactly. And so California has been trying to change some of those licensing and credentialing requirements. And so we obviously, I think what it comes down to is we need to pay teachers a whole heck of a lot better.
Ding, ding.
You're going to attract better teachers who are then able to, go through that more rigorous credentialing process, that more rigorous training process, so that they are equipped to teach Algebra 1 in 8th grade, and they're equipped to teach to a variety of kids and to instill in them that confidence and that Kim was talking about for her daughter, and that I know I had to get too. Just instill that confidence and that feeling of you can do it. Yes, it might be challenging, but that doesn't mean that you're not good at it, and it doesn't mean that you can't do it. So it's like a whole mentality shift that I feel like, for whatever reason in the U.S., we've not been able to achieve what, countries like Norway have, or then furthermore, countries like China, where I just read an article in the New Yorker where some kids are taking math 3 periods a day to just really practice and learn it. And I just think unfortunately in our system here, there's this kind of desire to just push kids through graduation, like, oh, you're done, our obligation is done, we wash our hands of it. But you didn't actually help the kids learn what is their actual right to learn as a public school student in California.
Yeah, it's when we were comparing ourselves, the United States, to other countries, we are behind, and it sucks. And unfortunately, the kids that are in school now, high school, our daughters, my son, Kim's son, soon enough, they're guinea pigs, right? It's going to be on the parents. And with all the talk about parental rights and being involved in your kids' education, it is very important. Kim's daughter is taking advanced math. Mine's in private tutoring, but that's a privilege. That is a privilege that we have the resources and the money and the time to do that. And not every family does. And they depend on the public schools to kind of fill that gap. And unfortunately, like you mentioned, Emily, some schools aren't going to be able to do that. I appreciate. Go ahead.
I was just going to say it's a priority for me because my mom always told me we're not good at math. We're really good writers.
That's terrible.
We're really good at public speaking. We're really good at these things, these English related things.
I love the we, like
right?
we as
But
people.
we're not good at math. We don't do that. That's not our strong suit.
And that's terrible.
And so I never really tried. I just thought, well, I'm going to suck at this. This isn't where I'm going. So I never really got to the point where Emily's talking about, where she had that light bulb moment and everything clicked, because I just thought, well, I guess I'm just not a math person. Right.
Yeah.
So I was kind of set up that way, which is why I think it's really important, even if money is tight, to prioritize these things, because I don't want my kids to feel that way about that. I want them to feel like they can do math, they can do hard math, and they can succeed at it. And so I have to give them the tools to do that I never even thought that I might even want. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
That's amazing, Kim. That's amazing. That's amazing that was your takeaway, and that you're creating the opportunity for your children.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good job, Mom. Good job, Mom. But you know what's funny? In just as you were talking, Kim, in my own household with my 2 kids, it is true that, like, so my son, and I'm going to use these terms that we all say to ourselves, my son is excellent at numbers. He just gets it. Like he looks at me sometimes, he's like, obviously, Mom, the answer is blah, blah. It's amazing to see. Now, for me, I'm still like, carry the one. It doesn't mean I'm not going to try. Doesn't mean that I can't figure out the answer. My daughter's kind of the same way. Although, again, I put her in tutoring and I'll just random daily math problems and she rattles off the answer correctly. And I'm like, yes, you can do this. And not everything in life has to come easy. But when you put in the work, sometimes the reward is so much sweeter because you worked harder at it. So that's
behind the scenes in the newsroom, my husband has always been on standby on election night, because I have to calculate the percentages of what's ahead and who's winning. So I'll do it, and then I'll call him up and I'll give him the numbers and I'll say, check my work, because I'm not going on the air unless I know it's right. Right?
That's awesome.
Like, that's how much I question myself as to whether I can get it right.
You can do it, Kim.
The thing is, I don't feel like I'm not intelligent enough to grasp these concepts, but I do think it's a lot of it is about confidence. So I feel like, and that's why I think it's the lifting up and not the dumbing down, because, if my kids can do it in a family that we're not good at math, right, then all these other people can do it too, regardless of whether they're foster kids or whether they come from disadvantaged homes, whatever. As long as we're trying to give them the tools they need, they can totally make this happen.
Absolutely.
Totally.
Great article, Emily. Honestly, I think it's going to give so many parents something to think about. Again, Emily Hoeven with the San Francisco Chronicle's Editorial Board. Read both of her articles that we talked about today. They are in the show notes. I appreciate you coming on every single time you do. I love your writing. Thank you so much for coming back.
Thank you, Nikki and Kim. Love talking with both of you.
All right. Bye, Emily. Have a great one. I love her. And I honestly, she's a great writer. And the math and the one we were talking about earlier regarding, Democrats in the state of California versus Republicans. I mean, I always read the comment section, and I'm sure she does as well, because it's editorials. She gets a lot of praise from people on both sides of the political aisle, because I think she's fair in her analysis. And that's why I love having her on the show. Yes, it's opinion, but I think it's a fair opinion and really brings up some great questions. So follow her. She's on Twitter. She always posts her articles there. I think she even gifted people that don't have a Chronicle subscription her latest article, if you follow her on Twitter. So you could check it out there as well. And we kept her hella long.
It was a good conversation, though. Like, exactly. I think it's important to talk about these things. We wonder why we'll turn around and no California students are going on to MIT and getting degrees and inventing things and doing interesting things in the world. It's because the state of California has decided to hold everybody back just to make sure we're all on the same page.
But we do also have, and I do want to just add this caveat to kind of put a fine point on it. As we lift everybody up, we do need to have a system in place for those that aren't able to do so.
That's right.
I was saying in the comments, promoting trades, promoting, working with your hands. Not everybody needs to go into STEM, although you use math in construction. You use math all the time. People that are saying you don't need math, let's get rid of math. No, you use math even when you don't think you're using math.
Right.
And so we need to make sure that the kids aren't thrown away like, oh, you're not keeping up. We have this, kind of mediocre math class for you. No, you need a little extra help. We need to make sure that we fund programs that can help those people that maybe learn a little bit slower. So we don't want to leave anybody behind, but we also don't want to hold people back. Okay, I have balls that are getting cold right now.
Should you just eat them?
Well, no, you're going to do. I got to go get them. You have to do your news. So we're a little behind. So we might, you know what, do your news, and
Okay.
we're not going to do it again at 1. We'll do it again at like 1:30 or whatever.
Yeah.
But so I had to drive my ass to the restaurant because, so if you don't know what I'm talking about, which the responses I have gotten to our conversation yesterday about this, huge. There is a Thai restaurant called Coup de Thai in Los Gatos, and they are being sued by a woman who ate this appetizer called Dragonballs because she claims it burned her vocal cords and caused damage because it was too spicy. She asked for it less spicy, which doesn't make sense according to some people at the restaurant because they pre-make these balls, and so it's spicy. I like spicy food. I've eaten spicy food on the show I don't know how many times. So I picked up said Dragon Balls. They're in my oven. I might nuke them for a minute just to make them warm. Yeah, they might still be warm. They were pretty hot when I got them. And I will eat them live on the show. And I will decide whether the woman is a wuss or whether these things are damn spicy. And, I'm only going to take a small bite. They are not that big. I will tell you, I could probably shove the whole ball in my mouth if I wanted to, but I will not. I will just take a bite. And if it's really good, I might finish it. But
did you tell them at the restaurant we're trying it on the
air? No. I kind of felt bad though because I'm only ordering the Dragon Balls, and I'm positive they understand. But they won't. So I went online to get it delivered, and they would deliver. But the minute you hit delivery, the Dragon Balls is no longer an option on the menu, which was really interesting. I should have asked them why that is, but they wouldn't deliver it. So I had to go down there and pick it up myself. So I was rushing around this morning, but that's what I do for you. So Kim, do some headlines and please click that thumbs up button to show your support of the show. And I will be tasting my balls next.
Now, from around the world to up your street, the Nikki Medoro Show presents News Czar Kim McAllister.
Let us begin with the Supreme Court ethics bill being advanced by Senate Democrats. So this bill would set up a code of conduct, tighten financial disclosures, and strengthen recusal requirements for justices. Democrats pushing the issue following reports of Justices Alito and Thomas accepting gifts from Republican donors and the staff of Justice Sotomayor pushing schools to buy thousands of copies of her book. So ethics all the way around, people. The investigation into the alleged Gilgo Beach serial killer is now expanding. Here's a picture of the suspect. His name is Rex Howerman, and police say he might have ties to jailed sex workers who might have come into contact with him. The investigation now covers New York, New Jersey, South Carolina, and Las Vegas. In the South Bay, San Jose State researchers are working to predict wildfire behavior on steep terrain. Scientists have been studying fire behavior with a mobile Doppler radar for a decade. The research analyzes smoke plumes to see how a fire creates its own weather, sometimes up to a mile away. Studying this data, they say, will help them better predict fire behavior, help firefighters, and better help people get out of dangerous areas sooner. There's some free legal help coming to some people in California, undocumented farm workers. Governor Gavin Newsom, calling them the backbone of California's economy, says he won't stand by as bad actors use the threat of deportation as a form of exploitation. So Governor Newsom unveiled a new pilot program aimed at those involved in state labor investigations so they can stand up for their rights. It'll provide case reviews, legal advice, and representation by an attorney. Got another shakeup going on at the Antioch Police Department. The chief stepping down, Stephen Ford, revealing last night he will retire in 3 weeks' time. It comes as he's due to testify in the texting scandal case tomorrow. Dozens of officers are accused of taking part in racist, homophobic, threatening text messages. Several have been suspended, one fired. 15 officers were also subpoenaed, but only 10 are expected to show up. at Stanford University. They're getting a new president as well. Mark Tessier-Lavigne will resign at the end of the month, next month rather, over concerns about the integrity of his research. He says it's in the school's best interest. An investigation, by the way, of the school's Stanford school paper, an investigation, though, an official investigation, cleared him of fraud and misconduct, but claims from the school paper that he didn't correct mistakes in 5 research papers where he was the main author are really at the crux of all this. He plans to do that now, fixing those mistakes, and will continue in his role as a biology professor on campus. And SpaceX had another successful launch last night on the Central Coast. A Falcon 9 rocket blasted off from Vandenberg Space Force Base in Santa Barbara County, sending another batch of satellites toward orbit and then coming back down to land on a ship at sea. We talked a little bit yesterday about this case in McDonald's about the hot chicken nugget burning a toddler. Well, we now have the jury decision. It is an $800,000 verdict against a McDonald's franchise owner. Remember, the family wanted 15 mil. They're getting 800,000.
That's still a lot of money.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I'm sure a lot of that goes to lawyers' fees, right?
True.
The case from an incident in 2019 where a 4-year-old girl was burned when she dropped a hot chicken McNugget, the girl suffering a second-degree burn to her leg.
I don't know. Hold on.
Yeah.
Now, this wasn't a chicken nugget. Just to clarify, I don't know how I feel about this award. I really don't. Because the chicken nugget, it didn't just graze her leg and then burn her. It got caught between her thigh and I think her seatbelt. And so it was sitting there for like 2 minutes. I mean, is that McDonald's fault? I just feel like we're all going to start getting colder nuggets, right? I mean,
Jury
I feel
said
like
yes. Jury said $800,000 for the hot nugget.
It kind of rubs me the wrong way. It's just okay. Yeah. The reason why she got burned, yes, it was a hot nugget, but it was also because it got trapped. You know, if I put my hand on something, if I put my hand in hot soup that just got put on my table, that's not on the restaurant. But
let me just make the argument this way, though, that if an adult orders chicken nuggets, that's different than giving it to a kid. And you have to assume that a kid needs lukewarm chicken nuggets, right? They can't have an extra hot chicken nugget because
you don't want fresh food, I guess. Okay.
I don't know. Their mouths are more sensitive. I don't know.
I don't know if I really particularly like that judgment, but whatever. Okay.
Personal responsibility, perhaps.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. YouTube bumping up its price on some of its platforms. YouTube Premium, now $2 more, priced at $13.99 a month. Those using YouTube Premium Music will see $1 increase to $10.99 a month. A spokesperson for the streaming giant telling 9 to 5 Google the rate hike shows the value of ad-free services, saying its music app has more than 100 million songs. Also in business, this company in Mission Bay in San Francisco called Fibrogen, they're cutting 104 jobs. That's 32% of its total workforce.
Oh, wow.
Fibrogen makes a pioneering anemia drug for kidney disease patients, but clinical trials for 2 other treatments so far have been unsuccessful. And we'll end it with this one, another tech story. WhatsApp recovering from a major outage. The Meta-owned messaging app was inaccessible to tens of thousands of users for the better part of an hour yesterday. It's unclear what exactly caused that disruption, but I guess WhatsApp is back up and running. I'm Kim McAllister, and this is the Nikki Medoro Show.
Have you ever used WhatsApp?
No,
I haven't either. I know people that have. I don't think I've ever used it. Let me look on my.
You know
phone
what I think?
quick.
It's if you have people like family members in other countries,
it's
it's very helpful because there's no charge to talk to your family members. Whereas the differences in cell service
that's true.
Can be a lot. So say you went to Italy, right? And all of a sudden you realize, oh, you have to buy special internet, special cell service to contact people. Well, you don't have to if you just go on WhatsApp.
There you go. Yeah, Wes says I use it all the time with my friends in Germany. Okay, yeah. I just don't use it. I don't know anything about it. Hey, you guys, I want to say some thank yous to those that have donated to our super chat. You guys have been very, very generous. Stan started us off with a $10 donation.
Yay.
And a good morning and a good afternoon to you too, Stan. Wes, $10.01. Thank you so much, Wes. I love it. Yeah, let's just kind of have a competition going. That's awesome. Rick with a $20 donation. Thank you so much, Rick.
Thank you.
Brian also came in with a $20 donation. Thank you, Brian. You guys are awesome. And then finally, Gordon came in with a $5 donation.
What's up, Gordon?
We appreciate every single dollar you throw our way. And please consider becoming a Medorable by going to thenikkimedoroshow.com and making a monthly Patreon donation. It's every month. It's once a month, whatever you can afford once a month. We really do appreciate it. And it goes to me and Kim. It keeps the show going. Okay. It's balls time. My best friend in Idaho, she texts me when Emily on. She was enjoying, I'm sure, Emily's conversation. She's like, okay, enough with the math. Let's get to the balls. And I'm like, okay. So, so if you don't know, these are Dragonballs. They are from a restaurant called Coup de Thai. And here they are. So let's do a comparison. So I could totally fit the whole ball in my mouth. I have a big mouth though. Okay. So apparently, and I have my glass of milk. So just in case, Kim McAllister, you don't have to be all scared for me. I'm not going to stick the whole thing in my mouth. But this woman claims that she burned her vocal cords.
Yeah.
From eating this bowl, which is spicy chicken and all kinds of seasonings and stuff.
Didn't she say something like chemical burns or something? Yeah. Like it was, and that's called the topic of this the balls came up last night at dinner. My husband was saying that's not even possible. If she's a doctor, she should know that all the pain receptors for spices are in your tongue, so it can't burn your. I don't know how
unless
it works,
unless she had it lodged in her throat, like maybe she couldn't get it down, because that'll happen. Like if you don't swallow your Tylenol or your pills, it could dissolve and you could burn. Like it'll just kind of stick there. You have to like wash it down.
Yeah,
I highly doubt that. I'm sure she was drinking a ton of water if it was burning that much. All right, are you ready?
Yeah. Oh, kind of. I'm a little freaked out. That was a big bite. That was half of it.
Listen.
I thought you were gonna nibble it.
That is a nibble for this mouth.
Do we have milk standing at the ready?
Yeah. I'm gonna let it sit. I'm letting it sit. No, she's high. It's a little okay, not to knock the restaurant. Okay, there's a little bit of spice now.
Yeah.
I have had way spicier stuff.
Is it like a spice that sneaks up on you?
Well, I'm waiting. No, that's fine. Okay, just in my review of them, they're a little dry. I'm looking. It needs a sauce. Like there needs to be something to dip in. I'm just taking a sip of this because it's dry. I'm gonna take another bite. I want to get like
So
you know what I'm gonna go get? I'm gonna get some sweet chili Thai dipping sauce. It needs something.
So while you're eating that, I'll say it's spicy chicken, fried with mint, shallot, green onion, cilantro, kaffir lime leaves, chili, and rice powder.
Yeah, it's a little dry. I need
6 balls for $11.
I actually got 7 balls. They gave me an extra ball.
Yeah, got an extra ball for your trouble.
I know, right? Yeah, it's okay. No, it is no way, shape, or form spicy enough to do any sort of damage.
Maybe they've spiced down their Dragonballs since the incident.
Yeah, I mean that's what I saw that in the comments as well. Really?
Yeah.
I don't think so. I really don't. Yeah.
You took a sip of milk there to
well, it's the only thing I have to drink right now. I mean, I have
less on the burn, but it's not burning. It's fine.
I have eaten on this show spicier food.
Wow.
Way spicier food. That is not spicy.
You don't sound like you have vocal cord damage.
I don't. I sound exactly the same. Now, all of your worries. I hope this didn't keep you up at night, my friend.
I was concerned, actually, especially. And then also just now when you told me yesterday, don't worry, I'll just take a little bit. You just ate half the ball.
That is a little bit. These balls aren't that big.
No.
They're like that big.
I thought you were going to nibble it just to see if it was like fire.
That is a nibble for me. Do you see these teeth? They have to bite. I don't know what you're talking about. Calvin, does it taste good? It's dry. It's okay. If it had a yummy sauce, I probably would like it more. I'm not even kidding. They were just really dry.
I don't
No.
even see a sauce served on the tray in the restaurant.
No,
Like
there's
a
nothing. I mean, there's a lime
lemon.
in
You're supposed
here.
to put lemon over it, maybe. Maybe that'll moisten it up a little
It
bit.
has lime and it has like cucumber in the box.
Mm,
And some lettuce leaves, like what you saw in the picture.
yeah.
It's all right. I wouldn't order it again. And I'm not knocking food.
Yeah.
I wanted to actually buy more food. I
Right.
want to buy what I normally get at Thai restaurants.
Yeah.
I wouldn't get that again. Now, somebody was like, maybe she swallowed it whole. Now, maybe she did. They're not that big, but I will say, if you don't like spice and you shove something called Dragonballs completely whole in your mouth and eat it, you're at fault. You are at fault. I'm sorry, you're at fault. I do not believe it. I'm going to call BS on her lawsuit. Now that's just my opinion. I have tasted said balls. I do have a high pain tolerance for spicy food. I love spicy food. But yeah, it needs a sauce. Yeah, it's not my favorite. I like
should have
chicken
gotten
satay
it.
or something like that as an appetizer from a Thai restaurant before I would do something like that. Not at all.
I know you got the Dragon Balls because of the, media incident.
Right.
But you should have ordered this. This looks
What
good.
is
It's called
this?
Mongo Mango.
Ooh, what is it?
Stir-fried fresh mango, bell pepper, carrot, black pepper, green onion, chili garlic sauce. You can get it with grilled beef, pork, chicken, prawns, vegetables, the Mogo Mango.
Is it spicy?
I think it can be. It says
Does it have an S on it? I can't really see.
It says chili garlic sauce.
Yeah, that doesn't mean spicy to me though. I need spicy. I mean, I want to see the spice. Like I know that some people hate spicy food. I know people that hate spicy food. I love spice. Now, Vilma says maybe it's damaging to people that can't take hot, spicy foods. I feel like that's a pain tolerance more than physical damage to your body, right? I mean, if you just can't handle spice and you have a reaction that way, that's fine. But to chemically burn your vocal cords, it needs to live in reality, not
it
just
needs to be the core cling. Seriously spicy chicken or pork with young peppercorns and Thai herbs. That's I think their spice.
Is that like a rice,
extravaganza.
or is it the thing that's rolled?
I think it's the chicken here.
Oh, is that? Oh, that's chicken. I thought that was rice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
they really like their ground chicken at this restaurant.
They do.
That's what the Dragon Balls are made out of. Maybe that's why I feel like it's dry. I feel like ground chicken might be a little bit dry. That's a good joke square vocal fry. That's funny. Yeah, I was having a conversation with my friend yesterday, the one that was telling me to get on with the balls. And again, I'm not making fun of this woman. But if you don't like spicy food, that's what we kept saying. Why are you going to a place their food is known to be spicy? Now you can order it less spicy, but your less spicy and their less spicy could be on two completely ends of the spectrum.
That's right.
So,
and if you're like not a spicy person, I think you have to really make it clear, no spice at all. I really can't tolerate
there's
any
the
spice.
door. Leave
Right?
then. I mean,
that's fine. Tell me I gotta go. That's okay.
That's what I would say. Now, Heather, you're absolutely correct. Spice is fine, but I have no interest in eating something that is so hot that it blocks out all the other actual flavors in the dish. Now, I can handle spice so much so that I could still block out the pain and actually taste the flavors on my tongue because, again, there is no spice taste bud, right? Sweet, sour, umami. What's the other one? Sweet, spicy, sweet. Oh, sweet, not spicy, sweet, whatever. There's 4, but it's not spicy. Spicy is a pain thing. And so, yeah, I can still taste, and sometimes I can't. Remember I was telling you I had that ramen, that 2 times as spicy ramen, and I could not. It tasted so good, but I could not ignore. Salty, thank you. I could not look past the pain. I was I was physically in pain. I had a stitch on my side from the pain. I thought I was going to explode from the pain. So I won't eat that again. It was good flavor-wise, but I couldn't get past the pain.
The 4 tastes are salty, sour, sweet, and bitter.
Oh, and bitter. I thought umami was one of them, but maybe I was wrong. Okay, so bitter, but not spicy. Not spicy.
No, that's not
that is not a taste bud. Vilma says my mother used to eat whole raw jalapenos. Unfortunately for me, I missed the gene. I love jalapenos. Raw, cooked, pickled. They're delicious. So, all right, that's been debunked by me.
This is
I said so.
interesting. I have to show you this picture really quick.
Okay.
It's just, and I don't know if it's going to change how you eat. Probably not. But here's a picture of this tongue, and here's where you taste everything.
Oh, good.
Where
Let's
on your tongue?
Where on your, like, so you could just place it.
Yeah. So.
Oh yeah. Okay. So bitter, sour,
sweet at the tip. Yeah.
Right. There you go.
Yeah. Taste the sour kind of more toward the middle. The bitter comes at the back, and the salty is kind of not right at the very tip, but a little back. So interesting.
Oh, and thanks to our friend John Daly, umami is referred to as the fifth taste. That's what I thought. I watch a lot of cooking shows, and they always talk about that umami. So yeah, but spice is not one of them. So again, if they want to use me as a character witness for the restaurant, I will say they're not spicy. It is not spicy at all, and I could have, I feel like I'm being fair. But look, I'm not talking any differently. I'm not chugging this milk, which now I have to drink because I poured such a big damn glass of it because I thought it was going to be spicy, and it's not. So
no, you can't waste milk in the Nikki Medoro house. Well, that was kind of a
milk is expensive. Yeah,
that was kind of a letdown. Like I had expected you
to be like, oh my god,
sputter and choke and double over and be like,
I am reacting exactly how I said I was going to react.
Handle it. I can't do this. I can't.
You have such you doubt me. How dare you? You see me eat so many spicy things. How could you doubt me?
No, I know. I'm sorry. I did it.
How dare you? No, it was I know it is a bit of a letdown, and everyone was like, let's see, like the cartoon with the steam. So go ahead, go to Coup d'etat. Get the Dragonballs yourself. You do not have to worry. I would not shove the whole ball in your mouth. I mean, maybe that was the problem. Maybe that's what she did. Maybe it was temperature hot. That could also be it. Maybe it was really, really temperature hot, not spicy hot.
Maybe she was a Karen and said in a very bitchy way, "No spice, please." And so they put extra in.
I still don't think that they would do that. I mean, again, she would really have to be a bitch,
shaker of
something spicy on there.
Yeah.
Like, like insert extra spice of no.
Or maybe when she said no spice, the waitstaff accidentally just wrote down spice.
Oh, maybe. But I just ordered it as is. I didn't ask for extra spice, no spice. That wasn't an option. So I just feel like she either had a temperature hot burn or she's full of crap. So that's my take on it. We're gonna put a pin on that. And the Dragonballs, in my opinion, are safe to eat. All right, let's switch gears a bit. Now I hesitated, Kim. I really hesitated to talk about this because I firmly believe that there is a coordinated effort to make people feel a certain way about a certain thing for political reasons. Funny story. Yesterday, I'm on Facebook, and I'm on part of all these like Gen X Facebook groups just for funny like memes and stuff like that. And one of the memes says, "What is a movie that you find so offensive, but that people should watch?" Right? Because it's still good. And people were mentioning things like Blazing Saddles and different types of movies. And I thought that somebody had mentioned the movie Sound of Music. And I was like, why is that offensive? Why is Sound of Music? And I'm so confused. And I'm reading all these comments below it, and they start talking about human trafficking. I'm like, there's no human trafficking in Sound of Music. And then my dumbass looks up, and I'm like, oh, it's not Sound of Music. It's Sound of Freedom, people. How many of you have either seen or heard of the movie that came out this month? I guess it came out on July 4th. Sound of Freedom. I'm going to show you the picture. This is what it looks like. Oh, did I not even put it in? Hold on. So it's a Jim Caviezel. He played Jesus, remember?
Yeah.
So he's in this movie. Apparently he's a big QAnoner. So that also, you have to add a caveat to that. But here's the thing. It's called Sound of Freedom. Now, let me just be clear here. I didn't hear about this movie being released. I've never heard about this movie. I obviously confused the title of this movie with The Sound of Music when I first saw it. Like, literally did. Was so confused why people were talking about human trafficking in relation to Sound of Music. But no, so it's been out since July 4th. Apparently, now this is an independent movie. I think I don't know, let's say $14 million budget, right? A very small budget. I don't know if that's the number, but a very, very small budget. Independent film. The people behind The Chosen, which was that movie or that series that I told you got the waiver from SAG-AFTRA to continue filming, even though the strike's going on. So The Chosen's about Jesus Christ. So they're behind this movie. It apparently has surpassed Sound of Freedom, $100 million at the box office. Okay. Which good on them for an independent movie. Now, what is this movie about? This movie is about people this guy, Tom Hilland, I think his name is Tim Ballard, who founded an anti-trafficking organization. It was called Operation Underground Railroad. It's a fictional story, though. Story actor Jim Caviezel. He plays Ballard, and it follows his mission through the Colombian jungle to save a girl from child traffickers. Similar to how I was talking to Emily Hoeven earlier, nobody's against that, right? If you want to go see a movie, I watched the trailer. Now, again, if I knew nothing about this movie and I saw it in the theaters as a trailer, I don't know if I'd watch it. I haven't seen a lot of movies. I haven't seen Indiana Jones. I haven't seen a bunch of movies, right? Would it be at the top of my list? Probably not. If I saw it during scanning my streaming apps, maybe I'd turn it on. Maybe I wouldn't. Doesn't mean anything. But apparently it does. That if you don't see this movie, that you must support child sex trafficking.
What?
That is this narrative that has been coming out that was all in the comments under that movie title that I was reading yesterday. Oh, of course you don't want to see that movie. You're probably a Democratic groomer, right? You probably support. Now, Jim Caviezel is allegedly, I'm not going to speak for him. Apparently he's been linked to QAnon beliefs, conspiracy theories, the whole idea, specifically the Democratic politicians or people within the Democratic Party, traffic children to drain their blood to drink it so that they can remain young forever. This is a narrative that people say with a straight face.
And so, by the way, is the man that the Caviezel character is based on. That's allegedly a true story. And this is where I go back to always look at the source of things, right? So this guy's name is Ballard, Tim Ballard.
Yeah.
And according to Rolling Stone and other sources, he has been a conspiracy theorist, QAnon kind of guy as well. He was behind that whole Wayfair QAnon conspiracy where like the Wayfair people were, I don't know, sending children places.
So the Wayfair thing, if you don't know it, so you would go on Wayfair and there would be like a dresser, right? That they were selling for $35,000. And the name of the dresser was like Dylan, the Dylan dresser. And that was code that Dylan was being trafficked for $35,000.
Right.
And that's how you found it. They were using Wayfair. People believe these things. And the evidence of it doesn't matter, right? The actual proof of it doesn't matter. They're told it. They believe it. They believe that there's a conspiracy to hide it. And if you don't believe it, then obviously you're a groomer or you support groomers. And they're always the Democrats, right?
Dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah. So the other thing.
You're telling me, a mother who has two children, that it's my duty in this life to protect. You're telling me that I'm for child trafficking if I question the source of this. By the way, Dylan's behind you
because he heard me say his name. Probably.
And he came over. Hey,
yeah,
Dylan.
Probably say hi. Okay,
but that's what I mean. Like, here he is. Like, here's our kids, and we're the most important thing in our life, more important than our job, is more important than anything, is to protect our children, right?
Of course, yes.
And so this is our passion. You're telling me that because I don't agree with the source of your movie, or that I don't agree with your conspiracy theories.
Or I don't even want to see the movie at all. Like, it's not something I want to spend money on. Yeah.
No, or time. I don't want to watch some type of propaganda. Forget it. It's all, they're trying to shove this conspiracy theory down my throat, and I say no thank you.
So now I don't have any plans to see it. But remember when I opened this segment, what did I say? There is this coordinated effort to promote movies as absolute hits. What's it based on? Ticket sales, obviously. Yeah. So Eric says, I saw free tickets for it on Twitter because the distribution company uses this something called Pay It Forward. It's a Pay It Forward app, which allows people to buy and donate tickets to others. So just because you see a bunch of tickets being purchased, doesn't necessarily mean that people are seeing the movie, or as many people that are different from those that are already watching the movie to begin with. I literally woke up this morning. Somebody that I know writes, the theater was packed with people, so happy to see Americans, probably conservatives, coming out against such a horrific crime against children. God's children are not for sale, which is a line from the movie. And it's as if the other political side, the Democrats, liberals, whatever, are against what you're saying. Of course, we don't want children trafficked. Of course, whether it's here in the United States or in parts of Colombia, which is actually where the movie is based.
Yeah.
As if we aren't on the same page here. And this is what gets me so aggravated, is that people take something as, I'm not going to say as innocent as a movie, but it's just a freaking movie. And it's like, if you don't agree with everything in the movie, or even want to see it, you must believe a certain way.
Nope.
Or I don't want to see the movie. Movies are expensive. I don't want to go into the theater. Like, I could give two rats' butts. Now, years ago, when I worked in Sacramento, I produced a series on human sex trafficking. Actually won me like my first major awards. I did this like 5-part series on human trafficking here in the Bay Area, specifically in the Sacramento area, because there was huge busts happening. I talked with women who had been trafficked as young girls and then had grown up and were trying to get out from prostitution, which is obviously the pipeline. So don't come at me as if I don't know the horrors, at least from an outsider looking in, of human trafficking. I get it. It's awful. But for me not to see a movie that is kind of supported by QAnoners, two, I'd be pushing a narrative I don't agree with, doesn't mean I am for human trafficking. Doesn't mean that I like groomers or whatever. Right. And it just gets me so freaking aggravated. I don't understand how we get to these points.
Apparently this movie has there's certain QAnon catchphrases.
Oh, really?
That kind of when you hear a certain phrase, you go, oh, that's my QAnon call to
like dog whistles
devotion.
Or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. It's one of them is "The storm is upon us." So you'll hear that in this movie.
Oh, that's stupid.
What I wish is that we could all start as reasonable people, which the QAnoner folks are not. I know, I get it. But we could all start with this reasonable, what can we agree on? What about this whole thing can we agree on?
Exactly.
Children should not be trafficked. Children should be protected. We can all agree on that. Awesome. We're all on the same page. Great. That's perfect. Right now, from there, what do we disagree on? So that we all know that we're for children, right? We're backing them up. We're making sure they're safe and everything's good. But the other stuff, there's room for us to disagree. I don't understand why there's this pointing fingers, and I hope it's really in the minority, but it seemed like it started with trans people, right? Where like, oh, if you're trans, all trans peoples are groomers.
Groomers, always. All drag queens are groomers. Everybody's a groomer.
So now, of course, anybody who doesn't agree with you on that or anything else is a groomer. Come on.
And I want to say this, and I'm sure conservatives are gonna get pissed off when I say this, but there's so many pieces of evidence that support what I'm about to say. For a political party, and I'm going to say Trumpers, and specifically former President Donald Trump, who love to project what they themselves are actually doing, I'm a bit concerned of why they're so obsessed with the issue of grooming.
I'm
not saying you're all groomers.
Too much, right?
Yeah, I'm like, And really, do we want former President Trump to be the face of this because he's trying to be? He had a screening last night of this movie at Mar-a-Lago. And it's because or at Bedminster, New Jersey, pardon me. Because he's desperate for that evangelical vote. He was civilly convicted of sexually assaulting E. Jean Carroll. He's going to be the face.
And he's the one, wasn't he buddies with Epstein? Like, yes! If there's anybody to be like, groomer question mark.
I mean, Epstein was on both sides of the political party, so saying. I'm not even going, but exactly. They partied together.
But I think if you start pointing the finger at just your everyday person who has nothing to do with grooming or child, abuse, then you take away the focus on the people that really are.
Yes.
And that's dangerous. When you start just blanket saying everyone's a groomer, no. Everyone's not a groomer. And it's really important to pinpoint people who are, because that's how you keep kids safe.
Exactly. And I guess I'm just exhausted by the whole thing. I mean, if you could have seen, I was trying to find the group post with that I thought said Sound of Music and it was Sound of Freedom, just to read some of the comments to you, because it was nuts. It was just, oh, you're probably a lib that loves groomers. It's like, wait a minute. How dare you label me? Like, just because I don't want to see your stupid movie? Yeah. And maybe it's good. Honestly, if there wasn't this whole like hubbub surrounding it, maybe I'd watch it. I'm not against watching it just to see it, but I sure as hell am not going to feed into the narrative right now about it. I watched the trailer, which was enough for me. And you know what? Again, if it was just a point in time, a movie trailer, I probably wouldn't watch the movie because it didn't look that exciting. But human trafficking is obviously wrong. And it's not the first movie ever to talk about people trying to stop human trafficking. So let's stay in reality here. Nick says, Kim, you are missing the point. Right-wing nuts don't want to build consensus. They don't want to find a common understanding. They want everyone to agree with them or be swept aside. Ding, ding, ding. You agree with me or you're a groomer. You agree with me or you're a sexual deviant. You agree with me or you hate America. You agree. How about I just disagree with you? How about we just disagree? Louis says, no, these crazies are watching the movie 10. Oh, they're saying these crazies are watching the movie 10 or 20 times each. It's another own the libs thing. It's a cult. I just keep waiting for them to do the Nike and Kool-Aid thing. Oh, no, God forbid. But yeah, it is a cult. In many ways, it is. It is the whole, I could shoot someone on Fifth Avenue and I wouldn't lose a vote. Why? Why would former President Trump say that on the campaign trail before he's even president? Because he knows you people, you Trumpers, you will fight, obviously, for the lie, which is him. He's just a walking, talking, breathing lie. Louise, also ironic, quote, let's find a complex conspiracy theory about groomers and ignore all these documented cases of molesting priests who are just moved around to continue molesting kids. Oh, yeah. You don't see any of these people protesting in front of churches or schools or any place of business. But I mean, it's not just priests, coaches, all of these things. Where are you people? No, it's just the Democrats and their cabal of drinking kids' blood. I mean, it's this fear that it's mind-boggling. I can't even make sense.
It's so weird that we actually even have to mention it, right?
And I was so close to not mentioning it, but I wanted to.
But it's important because it's actually going on right now.
Yes,
but it's so ridiculous and like out there in la la woo woo land, right? That it's amazing to me that it's become something.
Right. And John is absolutely right. I was going to mention this as well. It's like 2000 Mules, a quote unquote documentary. It's a mockumentary is what I call it, that supposedly proves Democrats stole the election by stuffing ballot drop boxes. And it's been disproven, the videos that they show, but nope, people buy it hook, line, and sinker. And if you don't buy it, you believe the lie that Biden's president. Or I live in the sane world where if you want to make a statement, you actually have to have real evidence that holds up to, scrutiny, which these people don't have. They say something, you believe it, or you're, part of the lie. Yeah, they do brainwash themselves, John. It's sad. It really is sad. And I always have to mention this when we talk about things like this, because I know I'm really so clearly on one side. If you can prove wrong, look, someone mentioned a grainy video of Hillary Clinton drinking a child's blood. Look, if it's not a grainy video, exactly, it's ridiculous. But what I'm saying is stop with the nonsense. Stop with this grainy video. Stop with a video that shows one thing and you're deciding what's being shown, right? Instead of like asking and talking to the people involved. If you don't have evidence to back up your wackadoo claim, shut up. Just shut up. I don't want to hear it. Now, if you have evidence that implicates Biden, Clinton, anybody, bring it. I will watch it, but it has to be real evidence. You can't say, oh my God, see this person walking? They left that place, and that's exactly what's happening right there. No, that's not evidence, my friend. That's you creating a story and a narrative with no real evidence to back it up. You don't have the paper. You don't have the ballot. You don't actually have the evidence. You're just saying it, wishing it to be true. And that's just not enough. It's just not enough. Now, do I have time? Yeah. Let me read some of these comments, because I also want to get into another thing that apparently is dividing people. And it's an example of how, in my opinion, we're supposed to take a person's excuse for face value and ignore what we're actually seeing with our own eyes. And by that, I mean the new Jason Aldean video. Mm-hmm. Try that in a small town. Now, this song has been out for several months, but he just released the video. And it's been pulled from CMT. It's not being shown. I don't know if it's been pulled from the radio, but he's getting a lot of backlash because of the video. And the video shows protesting, shows all sorts of things. And then, of course, there is the problematic lyrics that he's talking about as well. He has an excuse for it. I'm not buying it. And again, it's one of these things. Well, if you're against Jason Aldean, then you just must be the most awful, terrible person and hate America. And it's like, no, wait a minute. You're not allowed to say that, because that's not actually true. Nick, what can be asserted without evidence can be dismissed without evidence. I like that. Harry says, why are the theaters showing this movie sold out and empty? Who's buying those tickets? Bring on the conspiracy theories. Like I mentioned, Harry, they have this Pay It Forward app where you can buy and donate tickets. So people are snatching up all the tickets, AMC theaters, right? There's an AMC theater. Somebody buys all of the tickets. So it looks like it's sold out. And then nobody's showing up because one person can't obviously sit in every single seat. Now, I'm not saying that there aren't some theaters that are packed. Maybe they are. And I bet as this movie and this story catches wind, you will see theaters, because it's going to mobilize. And that's the genius of this way of advertising a movie. You make let's just call it kind of a conspiracy tinged movie that has QAnon dog whistles in it. It's not doing that well. So you say that it's a hit. You have this Pay It Forward thing. So you buy up all these tickets, which drums up attention. What I'm doing, I'm falling for it. I'm talking about it, of course, but we're a talk show. And then people actually do what you want them to do, which is actually buy the tickets for themselves. Yeah. So it's actually kind of genius. It's the smartest thing these people seem to be able to do, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's a large contingent of people that truly want to believe it. And unfortunately, it may reach sane people who will start believing in conspiracy nonsense instead of things that actually happen in this world. And it's sad.
I'm not saying don't see it. I don't have any interest in seeing it.
I don't have any interest.
But I feel like if you're going to see it, at least know going into it what the source of the movie is. Who's behind this movie? Is it really a true story, or is it a QAnon guy's true story? Like, let's go into it with an open mind,
with eyes open,
knowing that what they're going to spoon feed you might want to spit out at the other end, right?
Exactly. And Karen makes a good point comparing it to books. You can buy massive quantities as an individual or organization and claim it's a bestseller. And and Calvin came right in. Kushner or Don Jr. buying their own books to be on the bestsellers list. Yep. Now, did everyone buy it? Is it actually a bestseller? It's a bestseller to Don Jr. Probably giving them out as Christmas gifts or whatever. And it's not against the law to do that. But come on, we should know the truth and things like that. And again, if you want to see the movie, see the movie. But just understand that there's a background on this, and in some parts being manipulated into thinking it's actually a hit when it may not be. 100 million in sales. Was that to individual different buyers? I'd love to see the breakdown of that. Okay, we're going to do a couple of headlines with Kim, and then we will touch on Jason Aldean. Has anyone heard the song Try That in a Small Town? I have some lyrics. You tell me what you think about Jason Aldean's excuse. Because try that in a small town, it sounds a little aggressive, right? He's trying to play it off like, no, here in the small town, we do this, that, and the other. But that's not what his song says. And that's not what his video shows. So what are we supposed to believe? What we hear, what we see, or what Jason Aldean is telling us? That is all coming up after Kim's news.
Now, from around the world to up your street, the Nikki Medoro Show presents News Czar Kim McAllister.
There is a trade group representing U.S. chemical manufacturers filing a legal complaint against the Biden administration. Fox News reporting that this lawsuit filed by the American Chemistry Council accuses the EPA of failing to follow the law and basic standards for scientific integrity in its draft assessment on the use of chemical formaldehyde published last year. So this draft assessment explored a link between inhaling small doses of formaldehyde and certain health issues like cancers, respiratory problems, etc. It entered a scientific peer review process last month. If finalized, it would be the first time the EPA declares formaldehyde to be a human carcinogen. But again, already people upset about this. More than 2,000 heat records have been broken across the southern half of the United States this summer. Forecasters say the heat dome is expanding in Texas and the Southwest as well. Triple-digit temperatures expected to continue into next week and even beyond. A 2024 Democratic presidential candidate is defending himself against claims that he is anti-Semitic. This is Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who's drawn fire since a video surfaced last weekend of him suggesting that COVID was clinically engineered to avoid affecting Jews who descend from Central Europe, Ashkenazi. Kennedy spoke Thursday during a House hearing on government censorship online, claimed he was merely reading from a published study. A former White House aide during the Trump administration is appearing today before a federal grand jury in Washington, D.C. Former President Trump received a target letter from the Department of Justice notifying him he is under investigation in connection with the 2020 presidential election results and the January 6th of 2021 Capitol riot. With today being the deadline for Trump to respond to the DOJ's letter, the former president is not expected to appear before that grand jury. An Air Force veteran who claims the United States has recovered craft of non-human origin to be testifying among the witnesses at a House Oversight Committee hearing next week on UFOs. The other witnesses include Navy pilots who have reported multiple encounters. Lawmakers say the government does not provide complete information to the public, and the hearing will focus on transparency. Will we find out if there are UFOs or UAPs? It's a big day in Paradise, California. It's been 5 years since the Camp Fire, and this week, the Paradise Police Department reopens their dispatch center. That dispatch center was destroyed in the wildfire. The Butte County Sheriff's Office has been taking the 911 calls for the department ever since. The Paradise Dispatch Center did reopen Monday. They had to close it down again to work through some of the issues that remained there. Until then, the Butte County Sheriff's Office continues handling calls, but they're just about ready to do that themselves again in Paradise. In Oakland, it looks like Oakland International Airport is in for a makeover. Plans call for a new terminal building that will connect to the existing terminals 1 and 2, and that would add about 16 passenger gates to meet demand at the Oakland International Airport. Pretty big deal for people who fly in and out of there. Officials say they need to create more space, predicting 24 million passengers will be flying through by 2038. They're taking public comments, so you can submit those online over the next 2 months before the board votes on that. And lastly, and I don't know how much stock we've talked a lot on the show about not everybody needs to go to college, and some people can make more money doing other things, but there's always studies about the least educated cities in the United States. And so here we have it. 5 California cities ranking among the 10 least educated cities in the US. They are Visalia, Bakersfield, Modesto, Stockton, and Salinas. That's according to a ranking released by Wallet Hub. The website ranked 150 metropolitan areas, looked at things like number of adults with a high school diploma or a college degree, quality of public schools and colleges. It also examined gender and racial disparities. San Jose and San Francisco ranked in the top 5 most educated cities. I'm Kim McAllister. This is the Nikki Medoro Show.
Thank you, Kim. I want to take a moment right now, though, Kim, to make that announcement again about some changes that are coming up.
Yeah.
So starting in August, we're aiming for August 1st for me, but definitely for Kim. She'll explain in just a moment. I'm going to obviously try my best to be here on August 1st. I do have a job in San Francisco. They haven't put out the schedule yet. That's the only reason why I say that. Yeah. But it's looking like August 1st. This show is going to move for everybody that watches it live to 9 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so we'll be on between 9 and 11-ish. I would say ish. And then Mark Thompson is going to be on from 11 to 1. And then Kim was like, people are so used to this time slot and getting a taste of us.
That's right.
Like, Kim is going to be doing an hour-long show called The After Party. Talk about it, Kim.
So, and I think I messed it up, so I have to change the thing if you're gonna, and you really helped me out yesterday when you put the link in.
Oh, here, I can get it up for you as you talk. Go ahead.
But this is, let me see if I can fix it there. This is an hour-long show, so it's not like a big, 2-hour-long extravaganza. Oh, I messed it up. It's HTTP if you want to fix that for me. And the After Party Live. But the show is called the After Party Live. So it'll come after Nikki's show in the morning and after Mark's show. And after those 2 shows are done, if you want to stick around and hang out with me, I've got John Daly is a former producer of Mark Thompson's show, helping me get this show off the ground. And he's and I will be kind of still kicking around the stories of the day, continuing the conversation. It'll be mellow. It'll be fun. It'll be relaxing.
It'll be relaxing.
It will, because my whole thing, I put the logo of the show is beach related. It's a beach theme.
Nice.
Right?
Okay.
So I just want it to be like, we've talked about all the interesting stories of the day. Let's kind of maybe throw in some late breaking news if there is any, and then if whatever we haven't covered or whatever thoughts you have on all the things we have talked about, let's talk about it in an honest way and kind of wrap it up. We'll have guests. We'll have it'll be good. I'm really excited about it. So that starts August 1st. It's from 1 to 2, and please help me, because they have these YouTube things where you have to hit so many subscribers before you're able to do certain things.
To monetize, do any of the super chat, super stickers, and things like that. So
if you could help me out by going to the website you see there, http://theafterparty.live, and you can click on subscribe. That would be awesome. And I hope that you'll join us, or at least give it a try. And if you're
and just keep it on YouTube all the way to 2, like you do right now. Now, Kim, Lady Beatrice says, will we have a chance to send you super chats? That's the goal, obviously, for her to raise money and make money this way.
You can't do that until you get to a certain number of subscribers.
So get your friends to subscribe as quickly as possible. You guys really came through for myself and for Mark when we launched. And so we got to do the same for Kim. And I don't think she's going to have any problem doing it. All right. We have a great community here. So again, http:// you know what it is. Theafterparty.live.
That's
right. I'm very excited for you. I'm very proud of you. It's going to be awesome.
We'll see how it goes. I'm excited to try it and to see if anybody joins me for it.
There is no try. There is only do, my friend, as Yoda will say. You are going to
be fun.
Knock it out of the ballpark. Yes, exactly. Okay. Before we get to Jason Aldean, can I just, because this person's just being a lot in the chat, and I don't know if you just joined or whatever. COVID Killer 420. Nobody's against the topic of the movie. And again, this was the movie we were talking about before, The Sound of Freedom. It's about child trafficking, loosely based on this guy that goes after a girl that was being trafficked. No one's against that. Everyone wants the girl back. It's apparently, which I didn't know that Kim found out, there's some sayings in it that are kind of like QAnon slogans. That's what's kind of bringing the criticism. Nobody thinks that child sex trafficking is a conspiracy. Like I mentioned also, I did an in-depth series years ago. So we know that it's been going on forever about trafficking, human sex trafficking. It is not a conspiracy. I'm just trying to make this clear, COVID killer, because I don't know if you just joined. Nobody is saying that. What we're against and what we think is ridiculous is, one, if you don't want to see it for whatever reason, you're lumped in as being a groomer, or you support trafficking, or you're a Democratic blood drinker to keep yourself young, right? It's the nonsense. That's the conspiracy theory that we're against. So that I just want to make that clear. Thanks for being here and being in the chat. Just can't let that go by in the chat without addressing that. Let's get to Jason Aldean. Now, I don't know, Kim, I don't know much about your musical preference. Do you like country music? Do you listen to country music?
There are some country songs that I like. Like, I like Dolly Parton.
Yeah, I like Dolly Parton.
Right?
Too.
I mean, so Jolene, who doesn't like that? That's an awesome song.
Who doesn't like Dolly Parton? I mean,
Patsy
right?
Cline, Crazy. Like, there's some country music that I'm like, all right, I can get behind that.
Okay.
But I don't flip it to the country channel in the car.
Right.
I'm not like a country music, let's all listen to it all the time.
Right.
And so I'm not really up on the latest country stars, but I don't hate it like I used to. I think there's a lot of good country songs, but it's not my main go-to.
Yeah.
How about you?
I don't mind country music, but I think the last country group that I was really into was the Dixie Chicks. Or the Chicks.
Okay,
now.
Right.
It was funny. I have a good friend, a longtime friend, who's really into country. I can still remember we were at community college together years ago, and the Dixie Chicks were at like their height, right? They were the Dixie Chicks then. And she was playing. She's like, "Don't you just love this?" And it took me a while. She actually got aggravated with me because I didn't instantly love it, right? But after a while, like, I love the albums and country music. This is what I love about country music. One, and I'm not knocking the talent of the singers, but if you can't hit the note, just twang it out, right? You just like twang it out, and you kind of sing it that way if you're doing some great karaoke songs.
Yeah.
But
I mean, Garth Brooks, Low Places. There's some good stuff out there, right?
There's some great songs. Now, do I know all of my country music stars? No. When people play me songs, I'm like, oh yeah, I know that song, but it's usually because it's made the kind of transition to pop radio or
Red
whatever.
Solo Cup.
Yeah, right. I mean, they're fun to sing.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know Jason Aldean. I'm sure if I heard a song, I would know it. That sort of thing. There he is. He is a huge Trump supporter, and he hasn't made any qualms about it. He has made his opinions known about transgender issues. I think he even put his children in, like, I identify as a vegetable type shirts or some sort of nonsense. So him and his wife, they're very much conservative, that sort of way of thinking, which is their prerogative. You could like it, you could not like it, whatever. Okay. Well, but he's also very popular. Okay. He's a very popular country music star. So he came out with this song several months ago, actually. And it's called Try That in a Small Town. Now, it came out a while ago, but he just released the video for it. And in the video, which I can't play for you because we'll get dinged by YouTube, there's a lot of police footage from protests, people getting beat up. There's, shots of people screaming in the faces of police in places like Georgia. And so people are saying it's a pro-lynching song. People are saying that it's racist. So CMT, Country Music Channel, television, pulled the video. Okay. This is what Jason Aldean said. He said, in the past 24 hours, because this was put out a few days ago, I've been accused of releasing a pro-lynching song, a song that's been out since May, and was subject to the comparison that I, direct quote, was not too pleased with the nationwide BLM protests. These references are not only meritless, but dangerous. He continued, there's not a single lyric in the song that references race or points to it. There isn't a single video clip that isn't real news footage. And while I can try and respect others to have their own interpretation of a song with music, this one goes too far. And he says, as many point out, I was at Route 91 where so many lost their lives. And our community recently suffered another heartbreaking tragedy. No one, including me, wants to see senseless headlines or families ripped apart. He says, for me, Try That in a Small Town now pay attention. This is what he's trying to tell us. Refers to the feeling of a community that I had growing up, where we took care of our neighbors, regardless of differences of background or belief. because they were our neighbors. And that was above any differences. My political views have never been something I've hidden from. And I know that a lot of us in this country don't agree on how we get back to a sense of normalcy where we can go at least a day without a headline that keeps us up at night. But this desire for it to, that's what this song is about. Now, let me just ask you this. He is saying the song refers to the feeling of community that I had growing up. Okay. So it's not as if he's talking about people holding the door open for one another, right? It's not as if he's talking about, working at a food bank, right? Or volunteering, donating your time to your kid's school, clubs, all the small town stuff, 4-H, I don't know, whatever it is. I don't even grow up in a small town, all that small town flavor, right? Parades down Main Street, those sorts of things, the sense of community. Why does your video, Jason Aldean, not show that? Why does your video show police footage from protests? And why is the name of your song, Try That in a Small Town? Now,
will we get in trouble if I read some lyrics?
Please.
So that starts with sucker punch someone on a sidewalk, carjack an old lady at a red light, pull a gun on the owner of a liquor store. You think it's cool? You act a fool. If you cuss out a cop, spit in his face, stomp on the flag and light it up, yeah, you think you're tough. And here's the chorus. Well, try that in a small town. See how far you make it down the road. Round here, we take care of our own. You cross that line, it won't take long for you to find out. I recommend you don't. Try that in a small town. So you're telling me that
that is aggressive.
It's threatening, right? Got a gun my granddad gave me. They say one day they're going to round up. Well,
no one's coming for your gun, Jason.
That S might fly in the city. Good luck. Try that in a small town. Yeah.
So Lady Beatrice is saying, give Jason Aldean a chance to explain. He did. He says that the song is about the sense of community that he finds in a small town. What is that sense of community? Who is part of that community? These are the questions I have if you're trying to sell me on a certain narrative. So we take care of our own. What does your own look like? How do they believe? Who do they love?
Your own is only allowed to act a certain way. So you're saying that now I wouldn't go light up the American flag. That's not my personality. I personally wouldn't protest that way, but I believe that other people have the right to do that if that's the way they choose to protest. So is he saying that if you, I, or anyone else wanted to in our small town, which I do live in a relatively small town, that if I did that I would be facing at his gun? Because around here we don't tolerate that stuff.
Right. See how far you get.
My freedom of speech is
does he not believe in protesting?
Restricted by whatever he thinks is okay to do in his small town. All right.
I mean, are you not allowed to speak truth to power? Are you not allowed to protest? Are you supposed to just fall in line? Because that's what I'm sensing. It's you can come to my small town, you can live there, but don't you dare fly a flag I don't like. Don't you dare love someone I don't think is quote unquote normal. OCB writes, and this is a point that's been making before. Has anyone seen or heard a rap video lately? They make Aldean look like Mr. Rogers. Now, I'll say this. Any sort of rap video are you talking about? Because I will say some rap videos do talk about political issues. And yeah, there's cuss words and things like that. But again, it's a perspective, right? And they should be scrutinized just as much.
Yeah.
But I feel like when we talk about country music, there's so many things that are involved in that, right? So country music, it's supposed to be, the heartland. We're the true American music, right? It's like we fly our flags. And if he's really trying to sell this whole idea of taking care of each other, loving each other, that small town feel, you don't get lost in the hustle and bustle. You know your neighbors. You don't have to lock your front door. Unless you're flying, a pride flag. Right? Unless you are protesting police brutality. And then what? And then we have to watch our back. Is that what Jason Aldean is saying? Let's just be honest about what he's saying. He says, people, I don't shy away from my political opinions. Don't shy away from this video. And somebody was saying he didn't write the lyrics. It was handed to him. He's singing it. So I'm putting the onus on him. No one's going to make me sing a song I don't believe in, because that would be stupid, right? So I just feel like you can't gaslight me, Jason Aldean, into not understanding what you mean, because your video and your lyrics make it very clear. You might try to placate some people with the BS that you're just talking about, holding the door open for people and small town values, but that's a dog whistle. We got to go back to the normal way.
It's vigilantism, at its least, because you're talking about things that most of the things, other than the flag burning, are things that are illegal, right? So sucker punch somebody on the sidewalk. That's against the law. Carjack an old lady at a red light. Nope. Against the law. Pull a gun on the owner of a liquor store.
We don't want any of those things in big towns either, just to let you know.
You can cuss out I think you can cuss out a cop. I don't think that's against the law, but you can't spit in a police officer's face. So all of these things should be handled by law enforcement. But he says in the song, whoever wrote it, and the words came out of his mouth in song, said, see how far you make it down the road round here, because we take care of our own. So is he saying that they're going to take the law into their own hands because he's got a gun my granddad gave me?
Yeah.
And that you're not going to make it very far down the road if you try to pull that stuff here? And that's supposed to be like big man talking?
And who is he talking to? Who are you talking to?
He's talking to the guys that have nothing better to do, that have testosterone with nowhere to put it, and they feel like this makes them be more manly. Like, yeah, can't do that around here because we're going to get you. Like, we're going to take care of it. We're going to,
and that's why it's called a pro-lynching song.
And we're gonna,
yeah,
forget it.
And apparently he's not even from a small town. I don't know. I think he's from Macon, Georgia or something like that. Or that's where he grew up, I think. And that's like the 5th largest town in Georgia.
The good news is that Trump has a new campaign rally song, because, he keeps trying to play songs where
it's a good point.
The artists are like, don't use our song without permission. You can't have it. Well, now I think this song, Jason Aldean might let him use. So that'll be all right.
I'm sure he would just, Tony in San Antonio, love you, Tony, says, all I could think when watching this video is he's saying, try that in a small town, you black people. I mean, why show? This is also like, why did you choose the police footage that you chose? Why, Jason Aldean, didn't you choose a video of Heather Heyer being run down by that car in Charlottesville? Why didn't you show that footage, right? Mm-hmm. People exercising their First Amendment rights to protest. And a guy takes it upon himself to get behind the wheel of a car and drive it straight down, killing Heather Heyer. Where's that footage? Where's taking care of our people there? Yeah, it's a bit rich. I don't get it. But again, I won't be gaslit by this nonsense. And I will crack up if Trump uses it. Now, South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem says she was shocked over the backlash to the song. She said, I'm shocked by what I see in this country, with people attempting to cancel the song and cancel Jason and his beliefs. Nobody's canceling him, Kristi. Shut up. And him and Brittany, his wife, are outspoken about their love for law and order, dog whistle, and for their love of this country. And I'm just grateful for them. Law and order, if you break the law and you're not held accountable, people are allowed to protest that. It's not breaking the law to protest. Now, do I agree with destroying every single thing out there? No, I do not. Don't put certain beliefs associated with me. I'm not saying that. I understand. I get it. I don't like it. Nobody likes it. COVID killer. Thank you so much. I was just explaining it to you, COVID killer. I wasn't trying to attack you. I just wanted to make it clear because I felt like you had joined the conversation a little bit late when we were talking about that Sound of Freedom movie. So I was just clarifying. Welcome to the show. Vilma says the song incites violence. The title, try that in a small town.
Yeah.
Try that. You say that? If I look at my kid and I go, try that, they know they're going to get their butt whooped. Not literally, but if they try that, that's the point of that phrase. The good old boys are his own. Yeah, exactly.
It's a threat. It's like,
it's a threat.
Go ahead. You try it. We'll see what happens to you. Right?
Yeah. I'm over it. I'm over certain people who have certain beliefs trying to tell me that what I see with my own eyes and hear with my own ears isn't true. Yeah. Stop. I do feel like, Kim, and maybe this is naive optimism, we're getting smarter about this stuff. Like even with the movie, like we see what you're doing.
Right.
You know, this whole pay it forward app, you're buying up all the tickets, you're making it seem like a hit. And so you're drumming up interest in this.
Right.
Eventually people are just going to yawn because they know it. I feel like it's starting with Trump and the whole witch hunt thing. Like, I swear to God, you could have it on a bingo card. It should be the center box, right? It's like, oh, let me guess. It's a witch hunt, right? I mean, I hope that more Americans are, you know, just getting quicker with it and seeing the whole thing, because it's like, are we still, we're still using that line. Okay, I got it. Okay. Lady Beatrice, I think the controversy seems to be mixed messaging. He talks about community, but his video showing anything but ding, 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 because that's not what he's talking about. That's what he wants it to be portrayed. So CMT will put it back on television, but no. Oh yeah, and I did see this. Thank you, Deidre. So NPR was talking about Shanna Watts, who's the founder of Moms Demand Action. We've interviewed her. We interviewed her a number of times on KGO. She called it an ode to a sundown town that suggested people get beaten or shot for expressing free speech. And for those that don't know what a sundown town is, Black people, they had to be home before the sun went down, or basically you were going to get lynched. So that's what sundown laws are. Harry says, what's normal in a small town? Does anyone remember Deliverance? Now, that was an extremely small town. I wouldn't even call it a town. I mean, that's kind of like a pass by the town while floating down the river, which is literally what happened. Yeah, it's really, really frustrating when people, again, that have a huge microphone and a lot of influence use it in this way. He's just projecting to people that believe like him, and he's allowed to. But what you're not allowed to do, Jason, is think that I'm going to fall for it. That's just not going to happen. Okay, so tomorrow I am not going to be here. I will be in San Francisco.
I'll be here.
And Kim will be here. Mm-hmm. So tune in. She's not going to be eating, apparently. If you missed it, go back and watch the replay. I did eat the balls. You know, if I had to rate it out of 10... Okay, if I had to rate it at a 10-ounce spice, I would say, and this is me who likes spice, a 2 out of 10.
Really?
It was not that spicy. I mean, there was a kick to it. I would say that. There's a little kick to it. That's what I would say. There's a little kick to it, and then it goes away.
If it's a 2 for you, it'd probably be a 7 for me.
I don't know your level of spice tolerance.
Yeah,
but,
it's intolerable. I can't.
If anyone from Coup d'etat is listening, you need a sauce. It's a bit dry. I will say that. I'm so glad I didn't turn the oven on. I just kept them in the oven. Maybe they're juicier fresh because I had to go get them, but they're a little dry. They're not that spicy. I think the woman is kind of full of crap. Yeah. Let's end. Heather says, I grew up in a very small, narrow-minded town. The us versus them mentality is toxic in places like that. Yep. And Jason Aldean is making money off of it. All right. Before we end the show, guys, please click the thumbs up button. Show your support. Just click it every time. Make it a habit. This is your reminder to do it. Super Chat is live. Let me give some more thank yous to those that donated. Gordon came in with $5. Brian with $20. You guys, thank
Brian.
you.
Hi.
Rick came in with $20. Wes, $10.01. And we love you, Wes. And Stan started us off with $10. All of you guys, we appreciate it. You can still donate even during the replay. I'd please consider donating to our monthly Patreon. And if you already do, if you could swing it and bump up the donation, it's just once a month. We would really, truly appreciate it. Get all the information at thenikkimedoroshow.com, thenikkimedoroshow.com. I will be back on Monday. Kim is here tomorrow.
Yep.
And so from me to you, bye-bye.
Nikki, you're all so awesome. Miss Brown, like a beautiful blossom. You're all so the best. I really can't rest. You're all so awesome.
Wow. Okay.